It is comfortable for you to come to a cross-legged seat, please do. And we might grab anything that you like to support underneath the knees, underneath the thighs. We'll give ourselves a few moments to arrive. We may let the eyes rest. Take a deep inhale in through the nose and consider audibly releasing. Let the lips rest softly together. We may explore a few rounds of closed mouth breath. Do feel free to sigh at any point. Just let yourself arrive. We may give the body any little shifts, any little wobbles. Perhaps palms are facing down on the lap. Consider rotating palms now to face up and inviting movement into the fingers. We may very gently sit up a little taller, turning the head to the left, and I'm mirroring directionally. So we might give ourselves a little yes nod. And we may release that left hand to the ground or perhaps onto a prop. You just give yourself a moment checking in. Shoulder, neck, we may continue with the gentle neck nods. We may be reaching that opposite arm, the right arm perhaps up in the air. Chin may tilt down a little closer to upper left side of the chest. Right fingers may find movement. We might start to rotate to circle the wrist. Curl the fingers in. We'll bring ourselves back to center. Full breath. And let the head turn now to your second side. So maybe it's the right side and we're releasing that right hand out to the right, maybe fingertips tented or a hand or fingertips resting on a prop. We might continue with a little nod. We may tuck the chin. We may be reaching that left arm up in the air, dipping chin closer to the chest, mobilizing top fingers, twirling top wrist. And let's bend the elbow, bringing ourselves back to center. Let's spin both palms to face forward. Perhaps both arms come high. The gaze may come high. We may weave the fingers together, press the palms up. We might bend one elbow and lean the crown of the head towards the bending elbow side, reaching up through the heel of the opposite hand. And then trading. So we'll bend second elbow, crown of the head moves towards bending elbow side. And then we may just press up alternately through the heels of the hands, letting the fingertips eventually come down. Consider rolling shoulders and going the other way. And let's rock on back, trading the cross of the legs. So bringing second leg on top or in front. Both hands forward. Inhale, circle the arms high. And as we exhale, invite the elbows towards a goalpost or a cactus arm position. And we may start to draw the elbows towards one another, a little bit behind the back, just a little bit, not overdoing it. Inhale, arms rise, the gaze may rise. And as we exhale, draw the elbows down, perhaps curl the fingers in. Open the digits, reaching up. So as we draw down, we might now flip the hands and bring the knuckles together behind the back. Roll the heads of the shoulders back, slide the throat back. Consider starting to reach for opposite wrists or forearms now behind the back. We might even make it all the way to the elbows. Sitting up tall, just checking in. We might start to release the backs of the hands to the hips or the side body. And let's release, let that go. Give yourself any little shifts that feel good. Let's find that left hand now and invite the left hand option to sit on the top of the hand. So we slide it underneath our sits bone, sitting up tall, and just check in, maybe a little nod. This might be a lot in the forearm. We may decide to bring that left hand onto the back and flex it around the right side body, or even hold on to the upper opposite arm. And the head may lean in the opposite direction. So your right ear would be leaning towards your right shoulder if your left arm is behind your back. And we might give ourselves just a little nod, sussing into the neck a little bit more. If we're holding the right arm, we might just release it and support the head, bring it back to center. Releasing that left hand, give yourself any little rolls, any movements that feel good. And we may sit on the top of that right hand. So when we do that, if we're not feeling a whole lot, notice if you're twisting or rotating to the right, we'll try to square the shoulders off, the chest off, instead of allowing that rotation. And this might be enough, or it might just be different. Maybe you just feel this in a different location, but maybe we don't know yet because we haven't done this side. So we might slide that right hand behind the back. Maybe the hand is peeking around left side ribs or binding left arm. And perhaps we're leaning left ear towards left shoulder. The chin may tilt in closer to the chest. But again, just notice if you're rotating or twisting to the right, try to keep the shoulders, the chest forward. If we're binding that left arm, we may release, support the head, inviting the head back to center. And perhaps we take our fingers now to the neck, just give ourselves a little self-massage. It can be the back of the neck, the side of the neck, the base of the skull, the top of the shoulders. And we may just take an inhale and sigh it out. Consider grabbing a couple of props and let's support ourselves up to a standing forward fold. We might slide anything out of the way. Just invite ourselves to tip in. Maybe we find a little shift of the hips side to side. Head can nod, jaw may stretch. Moving across that whole back body. And let's gradually start to come halfway up. We'll put a little bend in our knees, and when we feel ready, we'll invite ourselves up to a stand. So perhaps rolling up. And we're going to find a prop. It could be a towel, it could be a blanket, it could be your yoga mat. So what we'll do is we'll turn it into a roll. So we're just going to roll something up. And we'll bring it horizontally across the short edge or a short edge of the mat. And we might keep a couple of blocks nearby or a chair seat nearby. Let's bring ourselves back down into a standing forward bend. And for some of us, maybe this is enough for today. We might take the ball mound of the right foot right up onto the roll. So the heel is on the ground. Feel free to put some bend in that right knee. And then very gently re-extend. Bend the toes. Again, we might bend the knee. And we may re-extend. Look for more ease through the neck. And let's step the right foot down and the left ball mound of the foot up. So that left heel is down. And you can give as much bend as you prefer in that left knee. But maybe we try out working that leg a little bit closer to straight. Find breath. We may be repeating, bending the knee, re-extending. You can back it off. You can hold. Look for ease in the neck. Let's step the left foot down And consider how that felt. If you want to decrease your roll, please feel free to unroll it a bit. We may try both feet now at the same time. So we might lift the ball mounds of both feet up onto the prop. We may want to move our blocks further forward, or your chair seat, whatever you happen to be using. Find that place where the breath is full. And maybe we bend the knees. So initially when we bend the knees, it might diminish the stretch a little bit, but wait for it. Roll a little weight towards the little toe sides of the feet. And consider slowly re-extending the legs. Now maybe we drop our hands a little lower. So maybe we lower our props. We drape the head. We may bend the knees. Roll the weight towards the little toe sides of the feet and slowly, really slowly, play with that re-extension. We do not have to go all the way there, but we might. We may nod the head. Full breath. We may sigh. And let's just take a moment to step off that roll. Consider bringing hands down to the ground. You're welcome to keep them on the seat of the chair, the back of a chair. It could be a chair dog. We may be walking our feet back into a down face dog and pedaling the heels. So we might ultimately press that right heel down and peel the left heel up. We might find a little wobble of that left knee. We might elevate the right hip as we pivot that left knee towards the right. Chin, nose tip to the right. We might even find a little head nod. And then trading sides. So left heel lands, right heel rises. And we might just find a little wobble. We might pivot that knee to the left. Chin, nose tip more to the left. The head may nod. And we might just paddle it out. And then walk ourselves forward towards a high plank. Maybe a little shift forward and back. Feel free to release the knees. And let's get off the wrists for a moment. We've been there for a little bit. So we might rise up onto the elbows, inviting length into the front of the body. Take a few moments to acclimate to this lengthening of the front body while it's also pressed against the ground. Feel free to tuck the toes if the feet feel crampy. Feel free to lift the knees and take the legs wider if that's more comfortable. You might prefer some leg rocks. And let's come all the way down to the ground. Sweep the arms back, land on the left cheek. And you can always put a riser underneath that left cheek, aka a pillow. Full breath. And let's try rotating the head to the second side. So landing on that second cheek, noticing how the neck is responding. And we'll slide the hands forward, rolling up into a cobra. Keep as much bend as you prefer in the elbows. You're welcome to extend the arms if that feels good to you. We might find a little rock, lengthening that front body, and let's roll it back into a child's pose. So we may be pointing the feet. We may hug the knees together or keep the knees wide. We might grab something to support the forehead so that the neck can find more ease. And it could be the ground. Maybe your forehead is resting on the floor. Full breathing. And we may roll the forehead from side to side very slowly, massaging the brow. We may find the middle and just give ourselves a little nod. And at your own pace, let's hug the knees in if we went wide-kneed. And we'll start to bring ourselves up to a seat, perhaps finding some cushion for underneath the knees. So just a possibility. You might want to double up your mat or just tuck some padding underneath the knees. Let's lift the hips over the knees and invite the toes to tuck. So maybe that's enough. You might even want to put the hands down on the ground. Maybe we sit back, hips closer to the heels. And if it feels like any of the smaller toes are getting squashed, just use your fingers to untuck them on each side. And if you want more still, we'll rise up. We'll roll maybe the heels out, right to the right, left to the left. And if you still want more, lift up, go kind of low rider. Bring yourself back a little more. You might be feeling this in the thighs too. Whew, and then just be all about those toes. So rise on up when you need to, pointing the feet, and you might decide to put the tops of your feet now on your padding on the cushion. Let's sit on back. We may walk our hands back, could be palms down. You could have your hands on blocks. And we may lift one shin. And maybe we find a little motion across the top of the foot. So this is more comfortable if we have some padding. We'll put the foot down, lift the other shin, find a little motion. Some of us might enjoy lifting both knees, both shins at the same time. And then let's bring it forward, plant the hands, land the left knee on the cushion if you're using cushions, tuck the right toes, pitch back to that right heel. Bring a little rounding into the back, chin to the chest, head may nod. We may swing that left foot off the long left edge of the mat. We might turn the left fingers towards 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock-ish. Right hand may land on right hip. Right heel may land so that the little toe side of the foot is coming closer to alignment with the short edge of the mat. Option to keep the right hand down. Option to reach that right arm up in the air. Check in with the neck, let the nose, the gaze come to the place that allows the neck to feel the most comfortable. And then perhaps we bring that top hand to the hip and float that right leg up. We may bend the knee in towards the chest and just try this out for a moment. We might extend and rebend. We might extend, bend the knee, swing that left foot back as we step the right foot forward, forward of the hands. Not really between the hands, right hand's on right hip, but we might rise up. So shoulders are over the hips, left hand on left hip. Find breath, check in with that inner left thigh. For the left hip, the left arm may start to reach up towards the ceiling. We may spin the left palm to face left, encircle the left forearm or the wrist. Get a little more length. Hug the belly muscles in, finding our side bending position. So we're reaching that left hand, left wrist over to the right. Let's inhale, rise back up, release the hands down, tuck the back toes, stepping back, down face dog. Shifting out anything that needs it. Perhaps we turn the heels out a little bit. Lift the kneecaps as we breathe. We may wiggle the feet a little further back, rock on forward to high plank. We may land the knees. We may bend the elbows, wrap the elbows in, and very, very slowly come back down to the ground, pointing the toes. Hands are planted. Heart rising. Rolling hips back towards child's pose. I'm going to pivot around. Don't feel like you have to do that. You're welcome to stay in the orientation that you're in. But we may be bringing ourselves, or we are bringing ourselves back up to hands and knees, sending the left foot back. So we're starting to pitch back through that left heel, chin towards chest, rounding the back. And we may start to pivot or swing that right shin off the long right edge of the mat. The left heel may land. We may be pressing down into the right hand. Left hand could stay on the ground. It might find the hip. The left arm may rise. And the chin, the head, moves back to the position or into the position that your neck prefers for now. So we're not adding any stress to the neck. Now check out the orientation of that right hand. We're thinking about lifting that left leg, perhaps eventually. Is that going to work with where the right hand is? How's the load in that right wrist? Maybe we need to come up onto the knuckles. Maybe we need to move the arm a little bit forward of the shoulder. So we'll all be a little bit different side to side. And we may lift that leg and bend the knee. And we may reach that arm long again. We might keep that top arm in the air or revisit top arm in the air. What's going to work for you to find that balance? Let's draw that knee in. Start to step the left foot forward, swing the right foot back, and we'll bring both hands up onto the hips. Pressing that right thigh, right hip forward. Back leg arm, right arm may rise. The palm may spin to face out. Encircle the wrist, find a little length. Hug left inner thigh towards the midline. Finding that side bend. Side bending over to the left. And let's gradually come back to center. Let the hands come back down. Tuck the toes, stepping back, navigating back into down face dog. Let's step our feet a little wider apart. And then meander the hands back. So it might be that we rock the weight into the left foot, left hand, so that we can get lighter on the right hand, slide it back, drop the weight to the right hand, shift weight into that right heel, right hand, the left hand slides back. And we just keep progressing until we find ourselves back in that standing forward bend, head heavy, neck long. We may encircle the big toes, first 2 fingers and a thumb. We may give the head a little nod. We may sigh, fold in a little deeper, perhaps bend the knees, spin the inner thighs back and wide. The sits bones may lift a little higher still. Let's inhale halfway up. Put some bend in the knees. Consider forearms to thighs. Bend the knees a little deeper. Take it slowly. When you're ready, we'll rise up to stand. Shift out anything that needs it. So if you have a block or something that's fairly sturdy that you can stand on, go ahead and grab that. If you have the marshmallow style blocks, by that I mean the blocks, if you put your hand on it, your foot on it, you kind of sink it and you leave a hand or a footprint, maybe don't use those. Those are a little bit too squishy. This can be done without a prop. I'll try to demonstrate both ways. It's just kind of more gratifying with a prop. You can see what's happening. So you may want to come to a wall and bring your wall hand foot onto the prop, and we'll come to stand. So the foot without the block is dangling. From here, we're going to think about reducing the distance between your hip and your low ribs, or your hip and your armpit, however it helps you to think about it, the waistband of your pants and your armpit. So we're going to hike that hip up and down. We're just letting the leg dangle. The leg is coming along for the ride. Now, if you have a prop, go ahead and stay on it. I'm just going to show this just in case anyone doesn't have something to stand on. You can absolutely do this without the prop. So you can still do those hip hikers. It's the same action, should feel the same. If it's a newer motion, sometimes it's a little easier to get when we have that distance of the block to stand on, or the prop to stand on. So let's pause. What you might be noticing is it's a little deceptive, right? You're feeling it more on the inside leg, perhaps. Think about now circling your hip. So the leg is dangling. What this isn't is bending the knee and moving it around. You're really drawing those circles with the hip. Now let's try circling the other way. So you might just get 1 or 2 good ones. Ooh. And then go back to the hip hikers, up, down. And this is the leg, that wall side leg is the one you might be feeling on. So come on off, take a little waft, take a little stroll, and maybe a little pummel, maybe a little percussive pummel alongside the hips. And if you'd like a counter stretch right away, That inside leg, the leg that was inside, bring it into a figure 4 sit. So figure 4 sitting, you can have a hand on the wall, or you could be challenging the balance, hold the knee, hold the foot. And we'll rise back up. And the other foot will become the inside leg. And we'll just start with those hip hikers. So we're lifting up and down, up and down. And then we may try some circles, just letting the leg dangle. Go the other way, circle, second direction. Ooh. Before you run out of juice, go back to the hip hikers. And when that inside leg timer goes off, mine has gone off there, go ahead and take a walk. And you could do the pummel. You could come to the wall and do the counter stretch for that outer area. But maybe you're feeling it in the thighs, the front of the thighs, like I am. Shift it out, and we'll do a counter stretch there too. So that outside leg, swing it back. We may stay here. We may bend the knee. We might hook our pant cuff, use a strap, or grab the top of your foot, trying to point the knee down to the floor. Gaze out to the horizon. Standing leg arm may rise. If it is fun for you to explore dancer's pose, feel free to do that. Now, if you're really just appreciating the stretch in the front of the thigh, of course, stay here. It might be that we press the foot into the hand, and you could certainly use the wall. Fingertips would come to the wall or challenge your balance. We'll rise back up to stand, shift it out. And we'll find second side. So when you're ready, toes back. We can absolutely keep the ball of the foot down. Just find your back bend here. Maybe we're lassoing the foot, hold the cuff, hold the foot. Use a strap. Maybe we're taking the wall hand up in the air, challenging the balance more. And perhaps it becomes dancer's pose. Maybe we're trying to find that balance point, pressing the foot into the hand. And we'll slowly bring the shoulders over the hips if we went for the dancer's variation. Release the foot, shift out anything that needs it. So we might find a chair seat or a couple of same height props, so blocks if you got them. And we may return to that forward bend position. Left foot stays forward. Right foot starts to reach back. Put a little bit of bend in that left knee and let the right leg rise. So give yourself a moment to acclimate. Check in with the left toes, open them wide. Now, possibly we start to roll the right hip, outer right leg up towards the ceiling. And then spin the hip, the kneecap back down to the floor. But we might keep going. We may try to roll that kneecap, the front of the thigh, the toe tips to point to the left. Feel free to adjust the hands a little further forward. So these are called moon rises. You might roll that right hip up a little higher. Maybe the leg lifts a little higher. Point the toes down, the knee down, but we may keep going. We may roll the toes, the knee over to the left. So let that leg rise and then roll the leg back in. So let's bring that right leg back in, shift out anything that might need it. And we'll set ourselves up for the second side. So maybe I'll stay in this orientation here. Maybe it's helpful to see the leg from that direction. So we might take that left leg back, put a little bit of bend in that right knee, floating that left leg up in the air. So when you feel like you've found balance, let that left leg rise. You could have the foot active, pressing up through the heel, point the knee down, thigh down. Feel free to bend that right knee as needed. We're trying to roll that left knee, left toes to point over to the right. And then let the hip rise, that outer thigh rises. And then roll it over to the right. And perhaps one more cycle. And we'll rebend the knee, Step that foot out, tipping back down into our forward fold. And we may give the head that gentle nod, let the head continue to be heavy. And put a little bend in the knees, round the back with the arms, the shoulders, the head be heavy. We'll roll all the way up to stand. And as you feel ready, stepping out to a wide stance, toes face the long edge of the mat. And let's turn right toes unmirroring to face a short edge, and we'll try out our lunge. So we might bend and extend, fanning right toes. We might bend, lift the heel, extend the leg, heel down, lift, fan the toes, and repeat. So heel rising, heel releasing, toes rising, fanning. We might come down, land, shoulders forward, arms opening out towards a T. Perhaps chin moving over the bent knee side, so maybe your right knee. We might sink a little deeper. We may extend the leg, pivot the toes in, let the arms rise. Pivot left toes out, starting to sink in on that other side. Let the hands find the hips. We might bend and extend the leg. We may bend, elevate the heel, extend, release the heel, lift, fan the toes. And we may try that a few times. And then land. Let the arms open to a T. Chin may turn to the left. Keep that left thigh rolling open, toes soft, jaw soft. And perhaps we're extending the leg, pivot the toes in, let the arms rise. Thumbs to brow, thumbs to heart, hands to hips. So if your feet feel like they're slipping, sliding wider, just take a moment and heel toe them in a little bit, land with the heels out, toes in. Maybe a little bit of bend in the knees. Heart rising, hinging forward. Let the hands come down to the ground. You may walk the heels of the hands back towards the heels of the feet. The head may nod. Maybe we decide to turn our hands around so the fingertips point beyond the heels. And we slacken and find even more ease through the brow, through the lips. And let's invite those hands forward and keep walking the hands forward until you find yourself in a wide-legged down dog. So hands move forward and the hips move back. Let the hips be drawn backwards. So there's actually a lightness in the hands. Shifting our weight forward, back towards the hands a little bit. Back the left hand up. Put a little bit of bend in the right knee and maybe angle the right toes to the right. Right hand may come to the right hip. Check in again with the neck. It might be most comfortable just to keep the gaze down. We might extend that right arm. We might extend the right leg. We might even turn the big toe back in. We find that wide-legged twist. We may wrap the arm behind the back, flexing hand around left side body, or binding around that left thigh. Let's slowly unwind the twist. Replace the left hand with the right. We might bend the left knee. We may angle the left toes a little left, look left. Hand to the thigh, hand to the hip. Maybe extend the leg, maybe dial the toes back in. Top arm may rise. Top arm may wrap behind the back. It might be binding that opposite thigh. Maybe we even sink down a little bit deeper. We'll gently release both hands. We'll come back to center. We consider heel toeing feet in and releasing down to the knees. So we might be in a kneeling seat momentarily. Feel free to sit up on anything that you like. We might hold on to opposite elbows. And we may take those elbows over our head. And just check in with a couple of things. Do we have clearance with the forearms going over the head? How do the shoulders feel about this? So you do not have to stay here. You can certainly bring the arms forward. And if this feels like a whole lot, you probably don't want to increase the load bearing that we may try in just a moment. So we might weave the fingers together and take those elbows over our head. And again, just check in. How do the shoulders feel about this? The neck. And let's release. So we might, from a kneeling position, hold those elbows, place the elbows on the floor, weave the fingers together so the hands might be down. And then we may be tucking the toes. The head is not on the ground. It might look like the head is on the ground, but there should be clearance. You should really feel no pressure on the crown of the head. We are bearing our weight on our forearms. We might feel this quite a bit around the shoulders. Quite a bit in those calf muscles, ankles. You can lengthen your dolphin if you like, take the feet further back, the heels maybe up and off the ground. You might need to bend the knees. And then we may take a little rest, come on down. And if that was fun and you want a little more still, you can repeat the same variation. Or we might rise up, step the left foot in, and take the right leg up in the air, just a possibility. So we may have that right leg reaching high. But of course, we'll save enough juice for the second side. So we'll let that right leg come down and that left leg may rise. And you can always take a rest between sides. So then let's release, bring ourselves all the way down. You're welcome to be in child's pose. Consider though coming to hands and knees. And if you know the knees prefer pattern, go for it. So we might shift our weight into the right hand and raise that left arm up in the air, twist, staying open to the left. We may thread that left arm underneath the chest, coming down the left shoulder, left cheek. We may tuck the right toes and reach back through the right heel and walk the right hand on the diagonal over to the left. You might even grab hold of the mat, the long edge of the mat. The head, we may roll towards the back of the head so that the nose tip moves up towards the ceiling. And we'll carefully bring that right knee back down, slide the right hand in, reaching that left arm high, cycle the arm forward to the right, let the hand land. We might come up onto the fingertips, working to strengthen the fingers, the wrists rounding into cat pose. Drop the hands, moving into cow. Sit on back, finding child's pose. And at your own pace, we'll try this out on the second side. So we'll drop the weight into the left hand, twisting open to the right. Threading the right arm under the chest, landing on the shoulder, on the cheek, chin tucking in. We can stop here. We might be tucking left toes, wiggling back through the heel. Maybe we take that left arm on the diagonal towards that right corner of the mat. You might hold on to the mat and draw that right hand away from the left heel. So you're kind of push-pulling on the diagonal. Chin may roll up towards the ceiling. Maybe you challenged your balance even more on the other side. Maybe you elevated that floating leg, the left leg. You're welcome to do that. And we'll gradually return left knee to the floor if we brought it up. Left palm with a bent elbow. Reach that right arm high, find our twist. Cycle that arm forward, draw the arm to the left. And we'll come all the way down, resting in your preferred child's pose. So maybe we're supporting the brow. Maybe we're taking the arms backwards. And let's slide those hands forward, slowly roll on up, transitioning the hips to one side. Let's move the hips forward and reach both legs straight out in front. And we may wobble, rock those sits bones a little further back while we keep the heels anchored. And that can be fun in the backs of the legs, maybe calves, maybe the entire back of the legs. We may sit up tall, hands may come right alongside the hips. You might prefer to be on knuckles or have your fingers a little wider. Chin rising or chest rising, chin may tuck down just a little bit. Maybe the hands walk a bit further back. And if that is less than you want, maybe you start to walk your hands further forward. Crown of the head moving towards the tops of the feet, but it could be nice to have that support for the brow. So you could build your props up. And this is just about the brow, it's about the neck so that we have more ease through the neck. And let's invite the hands to slowly walk back up and in. And we might walk the hands behind the back and point the feet, sweep the legs together, heart rising, chest rising. We might bend the knees, feet wide, press into the feet, let the hips rise. And your hands really go in the direction that's going to work for you. So some of us might like pointing our fingertips at our hips. Some of us may prefer fingers pointed out to the side or back. We'll come all the way back down to the ground. And as we do, perhaps we bring the soles of the feet together for a bound angle position. So again, how do the knees and hips feel about this? You can always grab those props and elevate them. We can give ourselves more support. It could be a chair seat. I'm going to use the props to build a chair seat. So it could be kind of more of a tabletop, blocks, a bolster, and maybe we add in a forward bend. And there's absolutely more than one way to do this. So my feet are pretty close to the body, but you might decide to open the feet up a little bit. Maybe you put your table legs together and between the knees. So you can adapt the pose to what your body prefers today. And if we're tipping in and we have that support, we might again turn the head to one side, just let the eyes rest. Now, if you are turning your head to one side, take a moment and try the other side. We can always add those risers or little pillows, a folded towel in if one side, the range of motion feels a little restricted. And let's slowly come back to center. And we may roll up and we may take the legs wide. We might want a couple of towels or a couple of blankets or yoga mats rolled up. And we can tuck them at an angle. Let me move this so you can see where that's going. You may want to tuck them underneath the knees. So if you feel this a lot in those inner thighs, hamstrings, that is an option. And if your floor is hard, you might also want some padding, some cushioning underneath the heels. We're not trying to create any bruises. And you can absolutely use props. So it could be a balance ball, a chair seat, your blocks, a rolled up mat. You could create that tabletop that we're again tipping forward onto. And maybe we fold the thumbs in, stack the fists and rest the brow. Stack the forearms, rest the brow. Maybe this is where we're trying that neck rotation. If you're trying the neck rotation, try the second side. From the second side, consider coming back to center, maybe giving the toes a little wiggle. We may gradually, slowly start to roll back up. No rush. We might scoop underneath the knees, guiding both legs back in, just sitting with the after effect, with the echo for a few breath cycles, eyes at rest. And let's spin palms to face down. And we'll again consider the props that we have nearby. So this is called a yoga bolster. It's really just like a big firm pillow. You could use a sofa cushion. You could use blankets or yoga mats. So you might just make a rectangular fold of a blanket so that it looks something like this. Let me spin it around just in case those tassels are distracting. They're still there though, of course. And we would place our blanket or our prop horizontally across the mat. Now, I would encourage you to get something that's a little bit higher and not too squishy if that's available. So if you have maybe a big sofa cushion, you could place that horizontally across the mat. I know some are pretty squishy though. But you could stack a couple of blankets to get a little more lift. Now we could take smaller sofa cushions or a yoga block, and with a little bit of a gap, your arm is going to go here eventually. Put a pillow prop a little higher up. And then we'll take another prop. So if you have 2 blocks, that's perfect. We just move that further away on a taller setting. Now we want a tail behind us. So that being said, you might slide all your props just a little bit more that way, or when we set ourselves up, we'll bend our knees, and I'm not mirroring at the moment. We're going to take our right arm up and over the prop so that our right side body, right upper ribs are resting on the prop we set up. That right palm is face up and the right arm is on the ground. And then we're positioning that pillow prop so that right side of the head is supported. But if we were to check with our left hand, we want a little tail behind our head and we want a little tail behind our back. Now the knees can stay bent like this, but it might be that you want to plug a prop in between the knees and between the ankles. Now the left hand could rest wherever it feels comfortable, or we have that other prop possibly overhead. We may raise that left hand if you haven't situated yourself against the wall like I have, where you can fully extend the arm and have that arm resting on the prop. Now I'm a little too close to the wall, so I'm going to bring my hand forward and let the eyes rest. And then consider bringing that left palm to the back of the head. Now this is where the tail is important. You're letting that left elbow roll back. So you might have to push or slide your pillow prop a little bit more to the left so that the back of the head stays supported. You can adjust the legs as needed. The upper chest might be rolling up towards the ceiling. Some of us might get to the place where we enjoy extending the left arm. So that is just a possibility. And you might feel like, I kind of want another prop under my left arm. Feel free to do that if you've got something nearby that will work. You can adjust that pillow prop. Full breath across that back bending twist. There's more than one way to come out of this, but for today, consider just holding that left arm back in, and we'll roll back to our starting point, resting on right side body. And as you feel ready, we'll press into that top hand, the left hand, and we'll come up with just enough effort to pivot to the second side. So you're welcome just to pivot back. I'm going to spin around just so I continue to face the camera to talk to you. But again, you're welcome just to take it where it feels good to you. So remember, we want a little bit of a tail. And as we come down on that left side, the left arm goes into that gap. That left arm is moving towards the floor. We're finding a rest for that left side of the head. And the right hand could rest on the hip. It might rest on the bolster in front of you. Maybe we're taking that arm overhead and finding a prop. So we're getting more length through that right side body. So full breathing through top side ribs. And we may be bending that right elbow, take the hand behind the head and just make sure you're not going to roll off your pillow prop. We're starting to let that right elbow move to the right. The chest may be rolling up towards the ceiling. Both arms may extend. Maybe that right arm is coming to the ground. Breathing into the back bend with the twist. Very slowly starting to roll back towards that left side. And of course, if you'd like to stay longer, please do. At your own rhythm, your own pace, we'll bring ourselves up to a partial seat, trying to let our attention remain inwards as much as possible. We're not moving quickly through these transitions. Giving the nervous system a rest. So we might decide to use a chair seat for an inversion. We might decide to use a wall. So you can grab a blanket, fold a towel, cushion, maybe not too thick a cushion. We might come right up to a wall. Now, if you've got the AC, a really strong AC, you might want something over the feet. You might even want to drape a blanket over the legs in a moment. So we may bring our left side butt right up to the wall and then pivot onto the back body, bend the knees, lift the hips just enough to slide the cushion under the hips, and perhaps we reach the legs straight up the wall. So if the legs are quaking and shaking, feel free to slide further away from the wall and have the legs more angled, or just bend the knees and let the calves rest on a chair seat. We may open the arms wide, letting the eyes rest, inviting the lengthening of the exhalations. Now the legs could stay straight, or perhaps we bring the soles of the feet together, bending the knees out to the side into that bound angle position. And that is just a possibility. You might be someone who prefers to open the legs wide back into that wide angle position. And it might be that you try each and just go back to the one that feels the best today in this moment. Consider re-extending the legs up the wall. And then bending the knees, sliding the soles of the feet down. We may carefully roll and rest on one side. And at your own pace, your own rhythm, supporting yourself back to a seat. Sitting with the eyes at rest. We may connect the palms, rubbing the hands together, place the hands to the belly, take a deep inhale, and releasing. We may rub the hands together, place them over the heart, deep inhale, and releasing. Rubbing the hands together, we may cup or hover them over the eyes, deep inhale, letting it go. Sliding a hand to the heart, a hand to the belly. Sealing our practice with sound. Deep inhale through the nose. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this practice. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. Have a great night, you too. Thanks.